Repairs are at the heart of healthy relationships. When ruptures occur, those couples that have a secure attachment style have an advantage over those that have an insecure attachment style or a history of unrepaired ruptures that we might even call trauma. So, how do couples that have an anxious or avoidant coping style learn to make better repairs? I thought in this episode I would list as many different types of repair statements as possible, and for anxious as well as avoidant attachment styles, so that they can learn what do repair statements look like? What do they sound like? How do we know a good versus a bad repair statement? And what I find oftentimes with a lot of my couples is they struggle in being able to make good repair statements. So in this episode, we're going to go through, I think there are about 12 anxious repair statements and about 13, I think I came up with, avoidant repair statements. And we're going to talk through each one of these. So that's what this episode is about. Unscripted Love, how to make good repair statements. Let's get started.
Welcome to Trauma-Free Relationship, a podcast that provides support and guidance to help heal the wounds of attachment trauma. Whether you find yourself struggling with unresolved issues in the past or have experienced trauma in your current relationship, our goal is to provide accurate, scientifically informed information, as well as the tools to help you create a secure connection between you and your partner. And here's your host, Tom Philp.
Okay, what we're talking about today is good repair statements. Repair statements that if your anxious attachment style or avoidant attachment style, really let your partner know you're making an attempt to repair ruptures. So what I'm going to do is go through and I'm going to list about 12 repair statements that if you fall into the anxious attachment category, then these are for you. Now, a couple of things have to happen for a good repair statement if you are anxiously attached. First of all, you can't come in aggressive, because that's what shows up to your partner when you're feeling insecure anyway, is this sort of aggressiveness, this push for connection. Sometimes it comes across as critical or demeaning or demanding, and that usually shuts your partner down. So when you come to make a repair statement, it's really important to not get aggressive, which means that you need to go low and slow. So you need to come in more soft, more vulnerable, drop your voice a little bit, slow things down so that your partner can really hear these statements best from you. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to list some of these. I may jump off and comment on a few of them as well. But as I go through and list them, you can take what you like out of these statements and mix and match them. You don't have to say these verbatim. So I may start with something and you like the way I start, but another statement may add more of something that applies better to you. You can mix and match these at will, so please feel free to do that. So we're going to start right now. The first one is, I'm sorry I got angry, but I get really anxious when I feel disconnected from you. I'm sorry I pushed for more connection. I know that when I do that, it causes you to shut down. I'm sorry I blamed you for what happened. I don't think that you were trying to sabotage this relationship, but I get scared when I perceive too much distance between us. So those first three there, notice how I start those. I start with an apology. And it doesn't mean that I am taking blame for the entire interaction or the whole rupture of what happened, but I am taking ownership for my part in that. I'm sorry I got angry. I'm sorry I pushed for too much connection. I'm sorry I blamed you for what happened. So I'm taking ownership of how I might have shown up in that rupture and how I showed up in those moments when I was feeling anxious and stressed. So it's always okay to start out with an apology. again, you're not apologizing for everything that happened, but you're apologizing for the way you could have handled things better. Here's another one. I didn't like the way we left things. Can we start over? I like this one because it's almost like pushing the easy button and saying, let's start this over. I don't like the way this ended. Can we kick off again? So that sort of tells your partner and signals to your partner that, hey, there were some things that were said or things that came out that I didn't like the way they were handled, and what I'd really like to do is launch this again. So another one is, I get scared when you pull away because it triggers my abandonment fears. So here's one that's going a little bit deeper, not just saying how you can be reactive in moments, like when I feel disconnected, I get really anxious and I push for more connection, which I know causes you to shut down. But here you're going a little bit deeper and you're letting your partner know, hey, I get triggered and I get hit in this place where my abandonment fears come up. And when that happens, I know I can get super anxious and I can tend to really want to solve or fix this thing immediately, which tends to cause you to shut down. So here's another one. I'm sorry I got angry, but when you shut down, I feel like this whole relationship is up to me to make it work. So again, you're going a little bit deeper into what's happening inside of you, making this repair statement and letting your partner know that, man, I go to this place that's really heavy and really hard because it feels like sometimes that if this relationship's going to work, it's all up to me. Here's another one. When I get scared, it often comes across as angry and blaming, and I know that makes you want to shut down. So here you're taking responsibility for the way you show up during those ruptures and letting your partner know, I can see that this is what you see. I see this happening to me as well. Here's another one. When I get anxious, I so badly want to be reassured that things will be okay, that I often come across as too aggressive. Again, a great repair statement is being able to recognize and validate what your partner may be seeing on the outside and letting them know part of what's happening is you're responding to what's happening on the inside to you and letting your partner know that. Here's another one. I understand that my anxious thoughts are getting the better of me right now. Okay, here's a great here and now repair statement. So this isn't coming back to make a repair. Here's a statement that you can say on the spot. Okay, I get how my anxious thoughts are showing up right now, and they might be causing you to shut down. And I can see this happening to me as we're communicating in this very moment. And I think that's a great statement, repair statement, because in some ways, it's like a third eye on the relationship. You're reflecting on what's happening as it's happening and making the implicit explicit. So instead of getting caught up on who says what to whom and in what order, you're actually able to reflect, hey, I can almost stand outside myself and reflect what's happening in this process right here and right now. And in some ways, what you're saying is that let's slow this down. Let's slow this down. Let's not escalate this too much because I can see right now my anxious thoughts are really ramping up and getting the better of me. All right, here's another one. I realize I'm feeling insecure and need some reassurance. Again, that's a great here and now statement because you're telling your partner, this is what's happening with me in this moment, and here's what I need from you. Here's another one, 2 more. I know I can jump to conclusions, and I want to apologize if I reacted poorly. So here's a great comment that you could tell your partner that allows them to be able to understand what's happening internally with you, and you're taking responsibility for how you responded. And here's the last one for the anxious repair person, anxiously attached person, the anxious repair statement. I know I can sometimes misinterpret things, and I'm working hard to improve my communication. So here you're letting your partner know that, hey, I know I can do this, and I see that I do this, and as a result, I'm also working on it. Because a lot of times our partners don't realize how much we're trying because they don't see internally what's happening to us. They don't see that, oh, well, I shut myself down and I didn't make that comment. Or I was going to say something here, but I decided not to. They don't ever see the times we don't do something. They only see from the outside the times that we do. And so I see a lot of couples sometimes that say, gosh, I'm working so hard, and their partner looks kind of confused and puzzled, like, really? I don't know that you are working all that hard. And what they have to communicate is, yeah, but when you said this, I didn't say this, and I didn't respond this way. Or last time when I got triggered, I was able to go off and soothe myself, and you didn't know that because I didn't blow up like I normally do. So being able to communicate what's happening internally to our partner is a great way to let them know how hard we're working on this relationship as well. All right, so those are the anxious statements. Again, I think it's really important that when you come to your partner or in those moments, because there were a few statements that were actually happening, reflecting what happens in the escalation, in the interaction with your partner in the here and now, that you're really being able to sort of calm things down, go slow and low, drop your voice, slow your speech down, because that's going to make your avoidant partner really be able to show up more for you in those times when you make those repair statements. All right, so now let's talk about the avoidant repair statements. And what's going to be really important for the avoidant person is to show up emotionally and stay engaged. Because what the avoidant partner wants to do is they want to shut themselves down. They want to move away. This is what their body has learned to keep them safe from their past trauma. And so they're going to want to remove themselves from their emotions, or they're going to want to remove themselves emotionally or physically from the relationship and stop that rupture from happening. So being able to stay engaged and responsive emotionally is the challenge for the avoidant partner. All right, here's some of these statements. I'm sorry I shut down. I get overwhelmed and have a hard time knowing what to say. Here's another one. I'm sorry I can't stay more engaged. Sometimes I feel blank inside and I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing. And another, I'm sorry I shut down. Sometimes I don't know what to say for fear of making our argument worse. And another one, I'm sorry I pulled away. I realize you are looking for reassurance in those moments. So here's several, including one more I'll add. I'm sorry I explode with anger. When I get pushed to a point, I can't stop the fighting. I can lose my head. So here's several I'm sorry statements. And again, just like with the anxiously attached person, what you're doing is you're just acknowledging how you show up on the outside. You're acknowledging what happens to you, and you're just taking responsibility for those moments where maybe you actually perpetuate the cycles further by the way you cope and respond when you get triggered. So I'm sorry statements are always a great repair statement to make, to come in out of the gate with. And in this particular case, with the avoidant repairs, you're also letting your partner know internally what's happening with you in those times. I have a hard time knowing what to say. I feel blank inside, and I'm afraid I'm going to make things worse. I shut down or I pull away, and I know you need reinsurance, but in those moments, I just get overwhelmed. So you're letting your partner know a little bit deeper what's going on inside of you. Here's some more. When we start arguing, I need us to take things slower so I don't get overwhelmed. Now, this is a good one because you're actually telling your partner what you need in those times. When you get overwhelmed, when things are moving too fast, it's really helpful to you if they can slow some things down so you don't get overwhelmed and then want to shut down emotionally. Here's another one. It's important for me to know that you don't see me as this horrible person that never gets it right or that does all these things wrong. During those times when can you give me some positive reassurance? So this is definitely a deeper statement, repair statement, because here you're letting your partner know, I go to a dark place sometimes, And I feel like I'm just constantly getting it wrong. And when I feel like I'm constantly getting it wrong, that is really hard for me to be able to sit with a rupture and sit and be emotionally available to you. And it would be really helpful if I could get some reassurance in those moments. Here's another one. When you criticize me, I go to a place where I feel like a failure, and that's when I begin to shut down. So again, a deeper statement. Here's a harder, darker place I go to that happens inside of me when we start to have ruptures in our relationship. And another one, when I get triggered, I know I shut down emotionally. I do that to protect myself. I also know that it triggers your fears and often leaves you feeling alone in this relationship. So that one is good because it's not only telling your partner what happens to you, but it's letting them know that you're also aware of the impact you're having on them at those times. Let's go to another one. When I shut down, I often feel incompetent, like I can't fix it, I can't make it better, which makes me actually feel worse. So here's a good one. You're telling your partner that, hey, it's frustrating for me that I can't make things better for you, that I can't comfort you and soothe you in these places, and that's really hard for me to sit with. And sometimes I shut down because I feel even worse that I can't make you feel better. So let's do another one. It's hard for me to see that you want connection when you look so angry. I'll try to remember in the future that you are just frustrated and need me to stay emotionally available to you. Now, I like that one because in part what you're doing is you're telling your partner, hey, I know some of what you need and I'm committed to working on this. And it's a lot of validation for your partner as well. And another one, I know I tend to go to my head and try to fix things, but that is where I feel safest when we start arguing. So here you're letting your partner know that this is what keeps me safe, and I know it causes a problem, but it's important that you know this is where I go to out of safety, not because I don't love you, want to hear you, not because your feelings aren't important to me, but because I've just learned over time this is where I need to go when I feel safe. And the last one for the avoidant repair statements is, I know I can be too cognitive and that you need more empathy and validation. I'll try to work on that so that you feel more heard and more understood. So here, the avoidant person is acknowledging that, look, I know I can go to my head and I leave my heart and I remove things, the emotion out of what's happening with us in that moment. And I'm going to try to work on that better. I'm going to try to stay in my heart more, in my feelings more, because I know that's part of what you need. So here are some repair statements today that I want you to feel free to take, to mix and match. We've got some that you can say in the moment. We've got some that if a rupture happens, you can come back after cooling down for a few minutes to your partner and begin to make repair statements that way. But go through these again. You can play this back and feel your way into, boy, what sounds like me? What can I add? What can I mix and match here that could be good repair statements for me to use with my partner that are applicable to my situation? So as always, thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to reach out anytime. Let me know what you like, what we can do better here, what you'd like to hear more of. And as always, thank you for listening. Until we talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Trauma-Free Relationship, a podcast for the healing of attachment trauma. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or our website at traumafreerelationship.com. Be sure to look for our next episode on your favorite streaming service.